Guys, for those that have been around the channel for a while, you already know that Neva is one of my most highly anticipated games of 2024. I've talked about it relentlessly, and at the start of creation of this channel and figuring out what we wanted to do with playthroughs and how we specifically wanted to focus on smaller studios and indie games through majority of the playthroughs that we do on the channel, I went across the journey through Greece and completely fell in love. Come to find out that that same studio, Nomada Studio, was also coming out with a predecessor to that game that kind of emphasized a lot of the elements that we saw in Greece, and it was going to be called Neva. And I watched the trailer for it that came out about a year ago, and I loved it. Since then, we've gotten a few more trailers and a release date, and yeah, this game has been one of my most highly anticipated games of the year. And so we just got a new video called The Artistry of Neva, and I want to watch it with you guys. Let's talk about it. Let's get excited about this game together. This game that I think is really going to pull at your heartstrings in just a few days. Before we get into that, guys, I will be doing a full playthrough of this game. I'm so excited about it. So be on the lookout for part 1 of this series when the game drops on October 15th. I cannot wait for it. I'm so excited to go on this journey with you guys. And if you enjoy this video, drop a like on it, subscribe, comment down below if you're going to be playing Neva on day 1 as well. Without further ado, guys, let's not waste any time. Let's check out the artistry of Neva. Ever since I saw that first trailer, I just knew this game was going to be one that should come with a box of tissues. You just feel like it's going to be a beautiful journey. The soundtrack is going to be amazing. And I hate to say it, I feel like it could give Greece a run for its money.
Small video game. La reacción de la gente, o sea, nos sorprendió muchísimo. Neva se pensó en el clímax del COVID, en ese momento complicado para todo el mundo.
Man, just look at the colors.
Mi hijo tenía 2 años, así, hacía poco que había sido padre. Entonces es la mezcla de estas dos ideas.
And it's a game about motherhood. I would say that's the core theme of the game. You start the game with a wolf, and you start protecting the wolf, and as the game progresses, the wolf starts protecting you. So it's a bit the
I think they get older too.
You take care of kids end up taking care of you. And the whole game is very inspired by Studio Ghibli. We don't shy away from that. Obviously, there's a lot of reference to Mononoke, Princess Mononoke. And I guess the combat and the animation itself also draws a lot from anime.
Is an evolution.
I mean, that's what sold me on it. I love the anime appeal.
Greece was a simple game. The mechanics were simple. And this one is slightly more complex. It has combat, which Greece didn't have. You can die, even though we have a story mode for people that doesn't want that big of a challenge. The progression of the game, changing the mechanics, is not Alba, the one changing. Alba, you have all the abilities that Alba have. She will have it at the beginning. So the evolution comes from the growth of Neva.
Oh, that's cool.
As she grows, she learns new things, and you can use that.
Con Neva quería probar una idea que era.
So Alba has all the same abilities through the game, but Neva is the one that upgrades and grows, evolves.
Sin la línea. Parece una tontería, pero es complicado a nivel artístico. Bueno, al final es un reto que me autoimpongo, porque nadie me pidió esto, pero es una forma de que yo pueda solucionar ciertos problemas y te hace evolucionar como artista. Primer medio año.
Man, it just looks so beautiful.
Básicamente no dibujo en la pantalla, dibujo en libretas. Es el proceso más creativo de plasmar ideas, ¿no? Yo pienso un puzzle o elementos de diseño y le puedo enseñar un sketch o lo que sea, pero toda esta información es para mí y después ya la selecciono y la explico al equipo.
Conrad and the other artists, they did a lot of concept art at the beginning, trying to find that.
Oh man, look at all the variations.
Looking like Greece, but being completely different.
From Software, o sea, el Dark Souls, me ha inspirado mucho en Greece y en Neva, la forma que tienen de la atmósfera, hay cosas que me gustan mucho. Bueno, hay mucho de.
Yeah, you got to give it to Dark Souls. They know how to build an atmosphere. I love how the inspiration for this game is like games like Greece, Dark Souls, anime, Studio Ghibli.
Right at the beginning of Neva, they were there already. So they have been watching and playing the video game from the very beginning, from a proto state.
Aprendimos muchísimas cosas en Greece. Sin duda, yo creo que Greece no se puede entender sin Berlinist. Su música es el 50% del juego.
That's so true. Music is like one of the core pillars of Greece. It's really what sells a lot of its emotion.
Muy bien el arte y la música, ¿no? Y encuentras esos momentos de 1 minuto y medio de sincronía audiovisual. Y creo que con Neva hemos intentado hacer lo mismo, ¿no? Aquí sí que esto no lo quería perder
Hay muchas más situaciones.
I even have
en
the
Neva.
vinyl
En
record
Neva lucha,
for
hay
Grease because I love
posibilidad de morir.
that
Desde un
you know,
punto de
album
vista
so much.
creativo, se han incluido instrumentos que en Grease no estaban tanto, por ejemplo, instrumentos electrónicos, percusiones. Hay un punto incluso más dark, más oscuro en Neva que en Grease no hay.
I'm happy with the game. I know I like it. I played, I don't know, 200 times.
It's like, yo, I beat this game so many times already.
De cómo va a reaccionar la gente. Por eso yo creo al principio, creo que me iré de vacaciones o no sé.
He said, I'll go on a vacation. Dude, I'm so excited, guys. I can't tell you. This game is it's gonna be amazing. All right, guys, so there you have it, the Artistry of Neva, a deep dive inside look at the creation of the predecessor to Grease, a game that I would say to this day is still one of the most talked about indie games in all of existence. And Neva definitely has some big shoes to fill, but I feel like it's going to fill them, and it's also going to step into its own pair of shoes and do things its own way. And that has me very excited to see. Obviously through watching this trailer, you get a clear glimpse at inspiration from Grease in its color palette and in its music, and it's the way that Grease was able to be emotionally evocative and like really pull at the heartstrings, get you invested in a character in such a in a game that had such a simple kind of concept where you're going through an adventure. There was no combat or anything like that. There were hardly any collectibles, but it was a game that still really was one of the most engaging experiences I think I've had in recent years. And to this day, I think it's kind of, it feels like magic the way that game was able to do that. And so looking at Neva, I feel like if Neva even has a minute amount of that character that Grease had, I feel like we're in great hands. And from the looks of the trailers and every ounce of footage that we've seen, it certainly does. So I wanted to take a look at this and just kind of highlight some of the things that really stood out to me, because again, this is a game I'm so excited about, and I want this game to do well. I think it really has the potential to be that next big indie game. So I'm excited about it. So we're going to reduce it to half speed here, and let's just get into it. So obviously, one thing I didn't know, I knew the story was about the relationship between Alba and Neva, but I had no idea that it was a story about motherhood. And what I think is so interesting is this idea that, with the story being surrounding the idea and the concept of motherhood, that Alba has all the same abilities throughout the entirety of the game, but it's Neva who grows throughout the course of the story, from a young pup to kind of getting older and older. And as Neva gets older, you're seeing Neva become stronger and then become the one to protect Alba. And already off of that jump, you can kind of get a glimpse of where the emotional aspect is going to come. The bond, the love, the need to protect each of these characters, both individually and their need to protect each other. I feel like through half the game, we'll see Alba protecting Neva, and then you'll see that flip about halfway through the game. And for what we've seen, I believe it's already been confirmed that this game will be about 4 to 5 hours in length. But what I always say, it's about quality, not quantity. And so a game that is only 4 or 5 hours that you probably could beat in one sitting, but has an incredible amount of detail and depth to it, I think can do so much more than a game that's 20 hours but has a lot of filler and things like that. So I say the same thing about anime, in the sense that I love anime. There's some of my favorite animes of all time are anime that are only one season, but within that there's so much detail. They don't waste time, they get to the point, they tell a story, and that story is succinct, it's strong, it's beautiful, and it knows when to call it quits. And so that's kind of, I don't really look at runtime as a definition of a game's quality, and I think, when it comes to this game, everything within that 4 to 5 hours is going to be substantial to the overall tale and the story and the narrative. Speaking of anime, as they talk about the game, one of their inspirations that they talked about was obviously Grease, right? It's the same studio that made Grease. As you can imagine, there would be a lot of that crossover in terms of, how they're telling the story, the color palette, the visuals clearly look like, I always said that, Grease felt like a watercolor painting, and you can kind of clearly get a sense of that in this trailer as well. And clearly, that was an inspiration for them creating the game. But one thing I did not know is that they got inspiration from anime. And any movie that gets inspiration from anime just feels like such a win for anime fans like myself, who have really for the longest time felt like anime has been underrated. A lot of people, 2 decades ago felt like it was for kids and you used to have to hide the fact that you loved anime. It was considered nerdy. It was considered weird. I've never felt like anime was anything more than one of the most beautiful forms of storytelling. And so, you know, to see so many films that are clearly inspired by anime and the various forms that exist within anime, from slice of life anime to action anime to anime like Naruto and One Piece and Akira and Yu Hakusho and all Dragon Ball Z and all these other great goats that exist out there that have really shaped the culture. Pop culture as a whole has in many elements has been shaped in one way or another by anime, and that, I think that's pretty amazing. So to see that one of their inspiration were Studio Ghibli films is it's a beautiful thing. I love to see that integration into different forms of media from anime, and how anime has really changed the landscape for how we perceive media today. Obviously this was inspired by Studio Ghibli as one of the key inspirations for this game and the storytelling, but another inspiration that they mentioned was that they got inspiration from Dark Souls, and I think that's pretty cool. You got to give a nod to the Dark Souls games, whether you've played them or experienced them or seen them. I mean, it's hard to ignore. They have really shaped how people, how gamers, experience games and how they love games. And the Dark Souls games, one of the things I'll always credit them for is one of their strongest suits is their ability to create a world and create an atmosphere and make you feel something based on just what you're seeing when you look around. You look at a game like Elden Ring and you get out of the basement area, the kind of the intro section, and you have this whole vast region for you to explore, and you really do have the freedom to go about it any way you choose. And I think that's it's one of my favorite shots in the entire game, and that's just one of the many shots that the game has that I think help it really stand out. I mean, it's just such a beautiful game. Even though it is extremely challenging, it also has a beauty to it that it's hard to explain. You just have to experience it for yourself. And so it's cool to see that they're getting inspiration for that as well. One of the things that I'm really excited about when it comes to this particular game, when it comes to Neva, is the idea that they're throwing combat in it. And I'm curious how combat is going to change the way we feel about this game. And I think it really does. I feel like it is a necessary element when it comes to this idea of motherhood and protecting, your young one, and then your young one protecting you. And there has to be a little bit of combat in that to kind of evoke that emotion and really push that forward as the narrative. And I love the idea of seeing at the beginning of the trailer, seeing, Neva be in danger and Alba really stepping up to protect the young cub. And I think that's really cool. And I think that's one of the mini moments that's really going to push this kind of this emotional aspect of the game. So I'm really excited to see kind of how that plays into it, how combat plays into the emotional aspect of the game, and how we ultimately feel about that as it plays out. I'm curious to see what's going to happen as we get older as playing as Alba, and how Neva, who also gets older, becomes stronger and more capable of protecting us, and how that's going to change combat in a way. Now, combat wasn't something that we experienced really at all when it came to Greece. That was a game of exploration. It was a game of a journey, and I feel like they really pushed that home. And I didn't think necessarily that I was going to love it as much as I did, but even a game that didn't have any combat, I mean, it was one of my favorite indie games of all time, hands down. And I feel like combat is something that really doesn't need to be there as much if it has a great story. So I'm glad that they're still pushing story in this game, but at the same time they're focusing on providing a little bit of creativity when it comes to combat being involved, and how that's really going to change the landscape of the overall experience. Overall, guys, I'm so excited about this game. Like I said, it's been one of my most anticipated games of 2024, and we are just a few days away from launch. And I can't wait to experience it. I can't wait to share in this journey with you guys. I think this is going to be an incredible experience, and I'm definitely going to be playing it start to finish on day one. So be on the lookout for more. We'll probably split it up into different parts, maybe 4 or 5 parts for this particular series. And, depending on how the game paces itself, we'll have to see once we, boot it up. But I'm excited about this game. I can't wait to see what the story is that they're trying to tell here. And yeah, I'm ready with my box of tissues. I'm ready to experience this. And my hope is to play it all in one sitting. It's 4 to 5 hours. And so, I would love to just dive in, but we'll see. We'll see how we feel when we pick it up. I feel like it is a game, though, that I'm going to have a tough time putting down. And so can't wait to experience this, guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, you enjoyed this discussion about Neva, you already know what to do. Drop a like on this video, as it really helps out the channel. You know, subscribe if you're new here and you love indie games, you love story games, narrative driven stories about characters that experience things that we all experience in real life, you know, relatable stories. I love story driven games. It's always been one of my greatest passions. To be able to share that experience with others feels like the greatest gift. And if you guys have found my channel for one reason or another, thank you so much for giving me a chance to entertain you. I cannot wait to share my experience with Neva with each and every one of you. So be on the lookout for episodes as soon as this game drops. I cannot wait. Like this video if you enjoy it. Subscribe if you're new here. Comment down below if you're going to be playing this game on day one. And without further ado, guys, I hope you're safe. I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.